Celebrating. It's here. And there it is. Burundian visa. Is there anything against me showing that on camera? I've gone 2 weeks without this passport, which I know isn't a very long time, but let's just say I like to have my passport on me. It feels really weird when I don't. You know, like, what if I suddenly needed to leave the country? And it doesn't even have to be for a bad reason. What if somebody I know was just like, whoops, I accidentally booked one too many, all expenses paid, trips to Malta. You wanna come? So this is gonna enable me to go on my next big trip, which is going to be to Burundi. This is a storytelling trip. I'm gonna come back with a lot of stories to tell. When someone shares their life with you, when they like take time out of their day to talk to you about their lives and their experiences, that's a big gift to you. That's really a generous act on their part. And so that's why I work really hard I thought, why not make another video just walking everyone through the process of how I tell these stories, how I prepare for a storytelling trip. All right, when getting ready for a storytelling trip, the very first thing I try and do, I think of the place I'm going and what kinds of stories are likely to be there. In the case of Burundi, there's a lot related to climate and poverty and sustainability and where those things overlap that I really want to get into. One of those things is related to tree planting, the idea of planting trees as a climate solution. Is it legit or is it overrated? I see a lot of good reasons that make sense to plant trees, but I also see it getting some backlash. Now, to tell you the truth, this is a topic I've been sitting on for quite some time. I kind of have some of my own opinions formed already, but I know those are subject to change, especially since I'm going to be up close in the communities where these trees are being planted. I'm going to meet people who plant these trees. I really want to learn from what they've experienced and what they have to tell me. I actually have a long list of places I want to go and stories that are likely there. When I do go to a place, I know what stories, what things I'm already curious about. Things tied to farming and volcanoes and coffee. When we went to Guatemala, having a topic, pursuing a goal, or chasing something you're curious about is a really good way to make sure there's like a story arc to what you're doing, to what you're recording. Otherwise, it's really easy for your video to just turn into, okay, we went to this place and we did this thing, and look, I'm not trying to bash on anyone's travel vlog or anything. There's a lot out there that do tell stories in that way, and more people watch a lot of those than watch my stuff. So in fact, I try and do some of that in my videos because I do want to make the kind of videos that, you know, I'm gonna enjoy watching, looking back on 20 years from now. But as a storyteller, as a communicator, I like my videos to contain something that helps the audience, something that helps them explore or discover something that I think could be really perspective shifting. So back in grad school, I did my thesis on systemic childcare in South Africa. And it was the type of study that was really best done qualitatively. I felt a little bit weird because everyone else in my program was doing more quantitative stuff, taking these intense surveys, you know, applying these intense research methods. And so my graduate advisor, who's like this expert in Cambodian orphanages, really like the similar topic that I was into, suggested just think of it like telling a story. After all, qualitative, quantitative information, it all tells a story. Just think of your research question as the thing that guides that story. And that makes so much sense because I think of a story as a character trying to pursue the goal, so trying to pursue the answer to a research question, that's a hero's journey right there. The research question, that's the thing that raises the tension, and everything else I do from there either raises the stakes and highlights why this is important to answer, or moves towards finding an answer, moves towards resolution. Climate change is urgent. We hear this all the time. We know the scary stuff, and we know that tree planting just might be a solution, but we're also hearing things where maybe it's a scam, or maybe it's just overrated and causing harm in other ways. Now that's tension. Okay, so one of the first things I want to do is a little research, a little self-education. And look, if something is on my list of topics of interest, odds are I probably know at least a little something about it prior to. There's a fine line to walk when it comes to this though. I don't want to do so much research that by the time I go to a place, I'm just kind of looking for a foregone conclusion. But it helps to have enough seen beforehand, enough looked at, to know kind of where that answer might be. At the very least, it'll help me map out what the filming will look like. This is actually a really great topic because the conversation is often so black and white. People seem like they're eager to just totally dismiss tree planting or go all in on it. And the thing missing from this conversation is nuance, which is something I think I'll understand a lot better when I arrive. Okay, one thing that I love about this trip is that I'm doing it through an organization that's handled media visits, Plant with Purposes, international partners. They'll help get us to the particular communities where we're going and make sure we're doing this in a way that's agreeable, that's beneficial for the people we're talking to. You know, like if we're visiting a community of farmers and interviewing people, that day we spend talking to them is a day they're not working on their... Okay, I'm about to hop on a call here with the team that I'm traveling with.
Yeah. I'm sorry for the late hour for this meeting for you.
Not really late. I think it's 9 o'clock.
Telling stories this way has led to so many rich experiences that money just can't buy. And of course, there are ways money can help too. If I had a big budget, I would look into hiring a fixer. I would look into hiring a local film crew, all that stuff. Sometimes I do something a little more hybrid, like earlier this year in Guatemala, where I booked a tour experience to a coffee farm from a company that just did things in a very person-to-person way, where I knew I would actually get a chance to talk to and interview a local farmer, and that was a great experience. The whole purpose of this trip is storytelling, and we're going to a part of the world with a lot of stories to tell. Like, this is a place impacted by some of the biggest things that are happening to our planet right now. I'm going to start by mapping out an outline for each of these little videos, and I'm not writing full-out scripts, but what I'm doing now is thinking, what is the structure of each of these videos going to look like? How do I want to introduce the issue? How do I want to raise the stakes? At what point do I bring in the conversations I have, the raw footage, the organic footage I capture? Then I really want to think about, how do I drive home the reason why this matters? When do I want to be all emotional, have the slow-mo B-roll and the heartfelt music? And then when do I want to go switch it up, be in explainer mode? When do I want to have the motion graphics, the fast-paced choppy music? I think the best videos know how to integrate those thought-heavy portions with the more emotionally rich scenes, so that you're not just being lectured at, but you're also learning through an experience in a way. So practically speaking, when I map this out, my videos typically end up with 7 to 10 blocks, and that helps me figure out how to approach this thing when filming it. To be honest, working this way also allows me to have stuff that's easier to splice up for things like TikTok and Reels and, all that new stuff. Long-form content will probably always be home base for me, but sometimes you just have to roll with the times too, and it's nice to be able to do so in a way that doesn't add a whole lot of work. So now that I have these blocks, I see the collection of recordings, interviews, B-roll that I need to turn the script into reality. My next thing is now to see how that meshes with the actual trip itinerary I have planned. For this particular trip, I get the benefit of working with a really thoughtful local partner. I basically sent them a wish list of things I wanted to see. Tree planting, of course, maybe a site with deforestation, time in a marketplace, time with a local family. And they took that wish list and they mapped it into a really well-organized itinerary, and it looks like they got just about everything on my wish list. I'm pretty impressed. See, a lot of my videos may toggle between different backdrops and settings. Sometimes I come all the way back around to close a loop. And if I do it right, it shouldn't be super obvious that a video wasn't filmed in order. So when I'm actually in a location, I try and be as minimally disruptive with my film equipment as possible. I don't want to look like an android that's part camera coming into a village. That's weird. That honestly used to be a bigger struggle for me. I would be so worried about getting the shots that it was just cameras all over the place. And I think I've learned a few things through experience. By knowing what type of shots I need, I can just make sure I get them and spend the rest of my energy focused on being present. So generally, all the shots I need kind of fall into 3 categories. There's the kind where I'm on location talking to the camera. All right, I'm currently walking through a marketplace. There's the B-roll. And then there's the times where I'm recording more spontaneous interactions.
Yeah.
Okay. The third is probably my favorite kind of shot, but you can't plan it. It's just more organic. You can maybe leave room for it, but you just gotta be there. Now, there's a lot of different types of B-roll, and it helps to have a wide mix. When somebody's telling you a story about their life, it's great to have shots that are related to that, getting that person in motion. It's great to have shots while you're in motion, kind of showing the journey, showing movement. Having some great close-up shots of textures is always really useful. Those can help smooth transitions, and then establishing shots, like things from further back that show kind of the overall area where you are. And movement shots is one of the things that have gotten a lot better for me. Part of the reason why is this, and I'm not a big gear guy, but this is the DJI Osmo. This is a micro gimbal that fits into my pocket. I can just hold it out here as I walk, and it's recording everything. It's really non-disruptive. It moves smooth though. It's like a drone is flying out of the palm of your hand. Love this thing. All right, we're right now in Mutandozi, where we can see two examples of the differences between before and after. I'm gonna go ahead and interrupt this recording of myself to talk about this kind of shot where I'm just talking into a camera with lines I've scripted. They feel kind of awkward to do in public, but they're worth it because if you get just enough of these, they can really carry a video. You simply just have to augment with B-roll and you can be a lot more present for the trip. There is one thing though that I don't script, at least not right away, and that's basically the end of my story. The conclusion, the big takeaway, and the reason for that is simple enough. I want to make sure I don't arrive with a pre-drawn conclusion. I want to be informed by my real experience there. The goal of these scripts is simply to make the process easier and to help me be more present on the ground. There's one more thing I'm gonna do before I leave on this trip. In Burundi, official business is done in French, but the language of the people? Kirundi. Here's what it sounds like. So I've taken the time to teach myself some really basic Kirundi. I think I have maybe a 60 or 70 word vocab. It's a pretty difficult language to try and teach yourself. Not on Google Translate. I had to use really old blogs and this PDF from the foreign service I found. Now, I only started about a month for this trip, so I'm not going to be anywhere near fluent, but that's not the goal. I'm going to have a translator the whole time. I'm just trying to learn so I could just build rapport with the people I'm interviewing. All right, let's do some Kirundi flashcards. You speak Kirundi? Uravuga I Kirundi? Easy one. Oya, ego, urakoze, urakomeye, ndakomeye. Shoot. Okay, time to take my newfound phrases out on a test drive.
Oh, yeah. Amahoro, amakuru, orakome. Ego.
I live this life I've always dreamed of. Getting to see the world, to meet people, to hear their stories. It's a gift. Being entrusted to share those stories with the world is another gift. Whenever somebody tells you their story, shares a vignette from their life, or a snapshot of their experience, it's a really big deal. It's an act of trust, generosity, and the things you hear are often astonishing. If you receive these gifts, there's only one thing to do. Accept them with gratitude. Be mindful of how you share these stories. And do so with a high standard of ethics and the honesty, the curiosity, and the creativity they deserve.